Hello everyone, this is Xentax and welcome to another Bloodborne cut/unused content video. This month has been full of Bloodborne cut enemies, bosses, weapons and armors, and there is still much more stuff to go through. And in today's episode I'm going to be covering another batch of unused enemies and bosses. But this one is going to have a special difference, and that is with the collaboration I did with Zully the Witch regarding the unused Chalice dungeons. I was able to find a fully unused Chalice dungeon boss fight with a completely new stage that no one has seen before, so be sure to stay until the end of the video because this one has a lot of cool stuff. So make sure you guys hit the like button, and without further ado, let us begin. So the first enemy/boss we have is this Golden Beast Knight. As you can see, it is actually a beast under the armor, as evident from the fur, hands and legs. The armor is golden and it has a very neat design with the shoulder pads and the helmet. And also a very interesting thing is that it wields the same halberd as the Golden Knight that we covered before. So that is a link between them, as they may be his lower knights or something. It also wields a crescent moon looking shield, which is also golden and looks special, you can say. Now, from all we have seen from the previous knight and its links to Cainhurst, maybe this one is also linked with the Vile Bloods, although it being a beast sort of contradicts this in a way, well, like with the Vile Bloods and the beast, but maybe this enemy was made before the lore of the game was fully established and they just found it unfitting. Very cool designed enemy, and let us move on to the next thing. The next thing we have is this big-headed looking thing, and if you didn't notice already, this looks 100% like an NPC we got in the DLC, which is Saint Adeline. Now this isn't very surprising, as From Software did the same thing with Dark Souls 1, as they had prototype DLC enemies in the original files like Calamite and Chester, and I made an entire myth-busting video around that topic. Now, as you can see, it sort of looks like a puppet more than a human, as you can see from the shoulders and arms and fingers. I don't know what the lore on this might have been, other than that this idea was improved upon and implemented in the DLC, and that they might have planned to have the Old Hunters DLC in the base game, but they couldn't because of time constraints and whatnot. Next we have is a sort of prototype Witch of Hemwick sort of character. Now, first of all, this is probably an NPC and not an enemy, because its ID is paired with other NPC IDs like the Doll, Gehrman, Slug Princess, etc. You can see the bandages wrapped around its arms and its nails are all crooked and broken. There is also the hood, which has some charms dangling from it. It also has a very long neck, but I also checked the model of the Hemwick witches, and the long neck might be just to show the effect of the long hood. And if you look under the robe, it looks kind of unhuman, you can say, as its body proportions are just not realistic. Sadly, I couldn't find a name or sounds linked to this character, so it's left to us to speculate on what it is. If I would guess, I believe it is a prototype Witch of Hemwick, as when comparing their models they look awfully similar to each other, with the exception of the eyes covering their entire body. Next we have our two models, which I'm going to be talking about together. The first one is called King Ghost Low Class. Now, this one, I think it's obvious that it is a prototype King Logarius, although there are a lot of things that are different. First being the crown on its head. Now, when I first saw this model, my mind thought that it was Gwyn immediately, and I think the crown was the reason. It is golden and it has a lot of engravings and red accessories on it, and it has this long standing shape. The beard is very lessened here than the original Logarius, and the robes look a bit lower class, let's say. Now, this variation holds many different weapons, and the first one being a shield, which looks more of a great shield here, which makes the model just scream Dark Souls. He also wields 3 weapons in his other hand. The first being a great sword, which looks hella awesome. It has a golden grip with some added touch to the end of the sword, which makes it look very antique, you can say. The second is a lance, which is basically a great lance or a giant lance, nothing really to talk about here. The third is what the game calls the crystal. Now, without actually seeing his attacks, we cannot know what this crystal exactly does, but if I would guess, it would be used to cast some fire or magic attacks on the player, and it has the similar engravings that are on the sword. So this is the first model done, and let us move on to the second model, which is named King in Blue. This one looks like a more polished yet still prototype Logarius. It has a different looking crown with shorter spikes coming out of it, and the beard is bigger now, but the hair is shorter. Seems like Miyazaki wasn't really sure about his design after all. The ropes look much higher class now, with some accessories and charms on the rope, and the boots have a different closed design here. It wields a huge looking ultra great sword which looks like a Zweihander. Now, why it is named King in Blue is pretty peculiar. I would have believed that this was Logarius before he led the executioners and all that, but all of the models have a skeletal hollowed face, so I think it is pretty much confirmed that they are Logarius prototypes. Or another thing is that this might have been a concept for the King of Cainhurst, and the lore on him is that he owned the Crown of Illusions and the executioners killed him or something, and Logarius took the crown for himself. Another thing is that in the very old footage of the game we see this skull, which many people believe that it is Lawrence's skull, but now it made me think that it might have been the skull of the King of Cainhurst, like with the Crown of Illusions on its skull, and it's not very far-fetched because the crown's design was changed multiple times as evident from the models I showed. Also, I checked the files and both models were supposed to be loaded in Cainhurst Castle. It's really cool to see how the evolution of characters and how they were designed and stuff, but when it comes to cut content and evolution of characters, the next thing in our video today might be the Big Bang. So I present you guys the unused Chalice Dungeon boss fight, as the game dubs it, Inherit the Nightmare Last Form. Now, first of all, Inherit the Nightmare is the codename used for the Moon Presence, and if we look at the model, it does indeed look like the Moon Presence. But who needs a turntable of the model when we can see it in action in-game? So me and Zully the Witch were researching into the unused Chalice dungeons, and after a lot of research in the save editor and the level files in the game, we were able to determine which exact dungeons hold the unused enemies and bosses, and we were able to find two fully functional bosses, which are the Great One Beast, which I am sure all of you have seen, and the Moon Presence Last Form. As you can see, this boss has a unique level which looks like the lair of the Moon Presence somehow, and the level looks a lot similar to the coast where we find another great one in the DLC, which is Mother Cause. You can see the sky, which has some glitches onto it, but it is expected as this boss fight was never finished, but the arena does look very cool. Also, the boss has a fully functional moveset, and it is actually a very formidable boss. It has a lot of health and deals a ton of damage to the player. So it seems like this boss was supposed to be a story boss in the Chalice dungeon, but seems like they scrapped the whole thing in the end, but it is amazing to see that they even left the arena you fight the boss in. Also, one last thing about the Moon Presence, there is actually a different variation of the normal one, as you can see. This one doesn't have the small wings like the Moon Presence we know, and its body is made from corpses rather than a ribcage of bones. It is similar to the One Reborn boss, and also the tentacles on its head also have a slightly different design. Now the ribcage is still there, but it's a smaller part of the entire body, unlike the cut variation that you are seeing. It also has a different texture than the Moon Presence, which is this. I believe this would have been some sort of astral form of it, like showing up somewhere as a ghost or something, I don't know, but nonetheless the last form might have a lot of implications to the lore, as maybe we needed to fight it one last time outside of the Hunter's Dream or something. Also, one more thing I want to talk about is the cut enemy that Zully showed in her video, which is this guy. It is called in the code Evil Spirit, and it is linked with the Evil Labyrinth Spirit Ladies you find in the Chalice dungeons, as they are named Evil Spirit Woman. Also, there is another model linked to it named Soul, which is this. I'm guessing it should have spawned after killing it or something, but who knows. Now, regarding the whole Hunter's Dream and blood ministration thing, there are a lot of cut dialogues in the game that explain a lot about this subject, and tells basically why we even came to Yharnam in the first place, and I'm going to be covering these dialogues as soon as we have access to the audio files, because currently they are only text now. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and make sure to like and subscribe, and if your Bloodborne waifu is Vicar Amelia, well, make sure to watch my latest video about that subject, because that might change your opinion on that. So I'll be seeing you in the next video, and happy early Christmas to everybody, and I hope you enjoy the holidays. Bye bye.